With the global rise in popularity of dramas, the cost of producing these shows has also increased dramatically over the years, but not every high-budget series became a commercial success. Before we get started, a quick shout out to today's sponsor. In the early 2000s, the Korean entertainment industry was far less crowded than it is now, and Korean series didn't have much variety. Most shows were simple family dramas with romantic plots, while the more expensive historical dramas were a rare sight. A typical episode of drama cost around $30,000, with cast salaries making up 10% of the budget. However, the Korean entertainment industry has evolved significantly since then, and by 2008 the average cost of a K-drama episode had risen to $90,000. The emergence of cable networks meant that broadcasters had to spend more and more money to make their dramas better than those of their competitors. And in 2015 the cost per episode of a K-drama had skyrocketed to over $360,000. One of the first dramas that made headlines for its high budget was Goblin, which aired between 2016 and 2017. While the actual production cost of the series has never been revealed, it might have reached $850,000 per episode, and it has been speculated that even major networks initially rejected the show because it was too expensive. The high cost of the show can be attributed to various factors such as casting already well-established actors such as Gong Yoo and Kim Gun, and the use of CGI in some parts such as the boat scene from the first episode. However, a big portion of the budget was spent on filming abroad, as several scenes were set in Quebec City, Canada. Despite the worries about its high costs, in the end it was all worth it, since Goblin became one of the most popular dramas of all time. Traveling to a new country can be tricky, especially when you're lost or urgently need internet access and there's no Wi-Fi in sight. It's even worse when you're trying to avoid scams or long waits for a local SIM card. While this might have troubled the Goblin cast, it doesn't have to be a problem for you, thanks to SS as a cutting-edge EIM service app created by the makers of NordVPN. With you can access affordable EIM plans available in more than 180 countries and 8 regions. Getting connected with is pretty easy too. Whether you're visiting one country or several, just download the app for iOS or Android, select your plan and follow the provided instructions to install the EIM. Once you land, your connection activates instantly. Just make sure to set it up before your trip. The best thing is that you can get an exclusive 15% discount on data plans by using the code MISK at checkout. So download the app or go to s.com MISK for a hassle-free trip. Travel smarter with while Goblin set a new standard for high-budget dramas. Costs kept rising dramatically over the years, and in 2018 Mr. Sunshine broke every record, reaching a production cost of around $1.3 million per episode, or $31 million in total. This drama, set in the 19th century, went to great lengths to recreate moments from history with elaborate sets and detailed costuming, which proved to be extremely expensive to make. Just like Goblin, Mr. Sunshine was also a huge success and earned high levels of praise from viewers for its storytelling and cinematography. By 2019, the Korean entertainment industry was already facing unbearable costs, but things got worse when Netflix entered the scene. Being a global streaming giant, Netflix could sustain even higher costs than any Korean broadcaster, and proved this with their first original Korean show, Kingdom. The series is a zombie horror set at the start of the 17th century and features high-quality historical costumes and settings, which made the show very hard and expensive to produce. Both seasons were originally planned to have 8 episodes, but the series took so long to film that they were cut down to just 6 episodes each. This led to a delay in production that made the cost skyrocket to well over $1.7 million per episode, with some sources reporting a total of $30 million. For the entire series, these costs might seem unreachable, but instead the fantasy series Arthdal Chronicles smashed every record. This drama takes place in the Bronze Age, so once again a big portion of the budget went into the costumes and creating huge historical sets that took months to build. This isn't all, as the series also features some of the most popular names in Korean entertainment, such as Jong Kim Ji-won and Jang Dong-gun, who are all among the highest paid actors in Korea. However, this time the most expensive aspect of the series was CGI, which was very prominent throughout the show and matched the quality of the production of some of the top Western shows because of this. Just the first season ended up costing over $45 million or $2.5 million per episode, and viewers were swept away by the imposing visuals and impressive production value of the series. However, despite the praise for its cinematography, the show wasn't very well received and got a lot of criticism for being too boring and for allegedly plagiarizing Game of Thrones. Nevertheless, the global success of K-dramas and the increasing demand for more series raised the expectations for the quality of the show's production. Companies had to step up both in the creative and technical aspects to match these expectations, and now dramas have budgets that would have been unthinkable only a few years ago. These high costs are often a result of elaborate settings, well-paid actors, and a lot of CGI. One example is Hotel de Luna, which was one of the most expensive dramas when it aired in 2019. An important fraction of the budget went into the construction of the sets and the special effects, since the series has many supernatural elements. Also, casting IU as the female lead was surely expensive, but the show went further by featuring multiple guest stars, and a large portion of the budget went into paying for these one-off appearances. All of this resulted in a budget of around $16 million or $1 million per episode. While these costs were soon overshadowed by those of Kingdom and Arthdal Chronicles and didn't reach those of Mr. Sunshine, this series marked a step up for dramas, proving that Korean companies were able to sustain the production of high-budget shows. The drama The Penthouse was one of these, and since this series focuses on the lavish lives of some wealthy families, the production team spared no expense to make sure that viewers understood how rich these people are. Each episode of the show cost $600,000, which might not seem a lot compared to other series, but with a total of 48 episodes across 3 seasons, this adds up to around $28 million. However, while the first 2 seasons were very successful, the show lost many viewers in the final season, which many deemed as disappointing. While Hotel de Luna and the Penthouse had high costs in part due to their lavish sets and costumes, the most expensive shows are often those with historical or fantasy settings. Among these is Snowdrop, which isn't too fancy since it was set in the 1980s, but still required a lot of work and expenses to make it accurate. However, in this case, much of the budget went towards the cast, as the show features Jong Hae-in, one of the highest paid Korean actors, as the male lead, and also marked the KD drama debut of Blackpink's Jisoo. In total, the 16-episode show had a budget of almost $26 million, which translates into a staggering $1.6 million per episode. A similar case is The King Eternal Monarch Mar, which made headlines in 2020 for its production costs. The drama features elaborate settings and special effects that made viewers immerse themselves in the story, but it also had an ensemble cast featuring names such as Lee Min-ho and Kim Gun, and their appearances made the cost rise to over $25 million or almost $1.6 million per episode. Despite this, the show received a lot of criticism and its ratings were much lower than expected. It seems like a big budget doesn't always guarantee success. Another high-budget show with a fantasy setting is Alchemy of Souls, which instead was very well received. Set in a fictional world and featuring characters with magical abilities, this drama relied heavily on the use of CGI, and the total budget for the 2 seasons ended up being $30 million or $1 million per episode. Another series that featured a ton of CGI was Sweet Home, which was produced by Netflix with a budget of around $2 million just for its first season, meaning that they spent $2 million for each episode. This huge budget went mainly into creating the detailed and unique monsters featured in the show, and many scenes had to rely on a lot of CGI and special effects. The quality of the final product was undeniable in the first season, which was a huge success, but the equally expensive sequels were instead poorly received. Meanwhile, in 2022, Netflix spent an impressive $5 million per episode on Narco Saints, which was filmed in the Dominican Republic and had intricate settings but ended up being quite controversial and disappointing. In 2023, Disney Plus entered the K-drama scene with their show Moving, which focuses on high school students with supernatural powers. This action-packed series has elements of fantasy and sci-fi that can only be shown properly with the use of special effects, and the production team had to constantly use CGI. This resulted in increasingly high costs, which made moving one of the most expensive dramas ever made with a budget of around $46 million or $2.3 million for each of its 20 episodes. This time the money was well spent as the series was a success and gained a lot of praise. Costs kept rising every year and reached new heights with Gang Song Creature, which had a budget of $53 million across its 2 seasons, meaning that more than $3 million were spent on each episode. This immense price tag was a result of a historical setting, popular actors, and massive use of CGI, but the series didn't live up to the expectations and has faced widespread criticism recently. The record for the drama with the highest budget has been taken by Squid Game. The first season already had a budget of $21 million or $2.4 million per episode, but the cost of the sequels has increased dramatically. According to some reports, Netflix spent $84 million to produce the second season of Squid Game, meaning that each of the 7 episodes had a cost of $12 million. This huge budget went into the construction of elaborate sets, the production of advanced CGI, the high salaries of the cast, and a global marketing campaign. If confirmed, this immense price tag would make Squid Game 2 by far the most expensive drama ever made. While these amounts are definitely impressive, the Korean entertainment industry is now facing a severe crisis as it struggles to keep up with these increasing costs, and experts are worried that these high budgets aren't even worth it, even though shows like Goblin Kingdom and Squid Game grow to be extremely popular and worth their price tag. Many other series didn't reach the level of success that was expected. Making things worse, the most famous actors are often demanding in huge salaries of up to $750,000, bringing up the total cost of dramas to unbearable levels. Now many drama critics and industry insiders have pointed out that production companies should focus more on narrative and world building rather than expensive CGI, popular actors, and visual spectacle, underlining how the increasing costs of dramas are becoming unsustainable. Don't forget to head over to s.com or download the S app now for smooth, worry-free travel. Make the smart choice with S.